Hello everyone, I'm here today to talk about Under the Eyes of the Big Bird by Hiromi Kawakami. This was long-listed for the International Booker this year. This book is about kind of a dystopian or like a future in which humans are getting into extinction, and this book talks about like the different ways in which they live and mostly the ways in which they reproduce. So there are some of them that are cloned. There are some of them that are produced from stem cells from other animals. There are some of them that just are born naturally, let's say, in a society in which it's very much expected that everyone should have a lot of children to preserve the race, basically. And we don't follow any specific characters. It's more of a vignette sort of style. There seems to be like pockets of different types of like reproduction styles. And then there's the mothers, which are clones of humans that kind of observe and take care that things are going okay, so that these people don't get extinct, basically. It's a little bit like Handmaid's Tale meets like the Chrysalis, something like that. It is not exactly dystopian because I don't think people are suffering, as in people are given this life and they seem to just kind of accept it, rather than like there's no fighting, there's no against the system. The system seems to it's not good, but it doesn't seem to be cruel. It doesn't seem that their point is not to control people. Their point is not to make people do things for them or oppress them in any way. Their system is there to ensure that humans don't die. So in that sense, it's not exactly a dystopian, I would say. We don't know exactly what happened or why humans haven't got so extinct. There is mentions of people kind of just got bored of reproducing, which fair. So yeah, it's not like one big disaster or anything. It's more a case of people just had less and less children, and this is where we ended up. So now we have to do something to increase the amount of people so that we don't get extinct and stuff like that. And yeah, so it's we follow different characters and they are connected to each other in a way. Like we will learn that someone at some point is the clone of someone that we saw before, things like that. It moves a lot around. It's not very clear, like the timeline is not very clear. We move around time a lot. And for the first 2/3 of the book, you cannot just randomly try to follow these little bits of information to try to put together what is actually happening. And then in the last like 70 pages, the last 2 chapters, we are actually kind of given more directly the information about what is happening and how these things are working, who the mothers are and how they are reproducing, who is this like controlling power, if you will, that kind of tries to make these decisions about who should reproduce and sometimes who should be with who and stuff like that. So yeah, at the end we do get some answers, and I think it was a very interesting to approach the topic because it is true that we are having less and less children, and so this is like going into the extreme and then trying to look at what is humanity exactly. So obviously the people that reproduce in a more natural way, we don't have a lot of questions about how human they are, but then the clones, some of them do get the thoughts and the experiences of the previous clones of that genome, and so it's kind of like the same person living thousands of years. Some of them don't, and so they are new people. There is a lot of different aspects that it explores in terms of humanity, like what it is to be human, and also about the, not so much the ethics, but a little bit of like the reasons why we would go either way in reproduction, and like the ethics of reproduction in a way as well. I found it very weird but also very interesting, especially the structure, and I'm glad that we got some answers at the end. Maybe that's not for everybody. Some people like to have their own theories and all of that, but I think it was a bit too complicated to figure it out by itself. You could put some pieces of the puzzle together, but it was not easy to get the full picture until the end, which I think it was a plus that it was there, and that we finally got like the overall picture. And in some ways I kind of feel like I should reread it now, knowing what I know, to get all of the hints and all of the things that happened before. It's one of those books that lends themselves to rereading. I really liked it. In terms of the writing, it is a fairly, I would say, Japanese style, in the sense that it is quite simple and sparse, but it is very precise as well, and at the same time it is quite detached. It feels detached and simple, but it does the job that it's trying to do in a very good way, which is something I like about Japanese writing, so I'm not saying this in a negative way. The only thing that it was maybe not so much for me is the fact that there was no character development, in the sense that there was no characters there were characters, of course, that we were following, and we see like snippets of, like, we see their story, and then we see them appear in other people's stories sometimes, but there is no one character that we see development. So the character development was not there, because that was not the point of the book, but I would have preferred like a single story of a single character rather than these pieces. But I think that is just my personal preference, rather than the book was not supposed to do that. It was its own different thing, and it was this interesting puzzle about this world, and I appreciate it for that. So I overall enjoyed this quite a lot. I would like to reread it, in fact, to see the things that I might have missed, now that I know a little bit more about the world and how it works. I would like to follow the characters a bit more in depth and try to make those connections that now I know are there. And it was also refreshing, I think, to read something it's not exactly experimental in the writing style, but it's experimental in the structure. I'm very happy that I read it. That's it for me. Let me know if you have any thoughts about this book, if you have read it, and if you haven't, let me know if you want to pick it up. And until next video, bye!